myself for five. All right, we're recording now. I've shared screen, I'm hoping. Nope, I need share screen.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, today we're going to be doing the Chroma key lesson. And this is a really fun and simple way that you can mess about with things that are green screen. Now, number one, this is the editing class, but of course, we're going to talk about the best way to green screen something. And of course, light is super important when you're setting up your green screen. You want your green background to be evenly lit, and you want the ability to be able to select a uniform color behind the whole thing. We're gonna go. I have a couple different examples we can talk about what happens when we don't have proper green screened footage. But I am going to share my video. Oh, I turned off my video. That was the wrong thing to do. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my sound, and I'm going to share my desktop. And then we're going to go into Premiere here. And from here, I'm going to, of course, go File, New Project. I'm going to call this Chroma key. Say OK. I'm going to bring in some assets, which I believe I have these ones here.
We have several. There's a whole list of them, which we'll talk about afterwards. But for your project, oh, there's one of them.
Yeah, I chose assets that were either on the list or related links to the ones on the list, because obviously, oops, belches and burps, punch sound effects. These aren't the ones. That's one of them. What happened? Okay, that's one I wanted. Oh yeah, here's Shia. Okay. Free to use. I got extra sound effects for some reason. Did I get? I thought I got a couple more. Oh, here it is. All right. Of course, I had to bring in track. Okay, so appropriately for green, let's start here. On your list, Grant has this character inaccurately labeled as Fox, animated Fox green screen. All of us who know who this character is know who this character is, right? It's a bad render of course, Crash Bandicoot, the PlayStation 1 character. We can see.
I wouldn't have known that by that terrible.
Would you have known Crash Bandicoot?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, this is Crash Bandicoot, Grant.
Okay.
Okay. Good, awesome, terrible render of. Well, of course, this is not a fox. It's a bandicoot, Grant. Just to be clear. All right, so how do we go about getting rid of the green? And what's interesting to think about when we're looking at our chroma key is we call it a green screen. That used to be a blue screen before that. But number one, why do you think when doing chroma key, this is our color? This is chroma green, which is the name of the color. Why do you think green screens are this color?
It's probably used the least.
Absolutely, Robert's right. It is a color that not only doesn't really happen in nature, it is used the least. People aren't going to wear this color traditionally. Biologically, no one's eyes are going to be this color. No one's skin's going to be this color. So this is the best color to light your background. Now, this is an animated character on a green screen, so really you can control the light.
You could have just cut out the background entirely.
In the color. Yes. So can we cut out the background? Well, we can see that in something that's properly lit like this, the green color is uniformed anywhere that I look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead here. And I'm going to go into my effects. And then in my effects, I'm going to go into video effects. I am going to go into my keying folder. And I have a couple different options on how to key out things. Now, The one that I'm going to teach you today is Ultra Key, which kind of combines a lot of the other ones. It's my favorite one to use. I'm going to just click and drag and onto my clip here. And I'm going to choose a point right here. And I'm going to go into my effects control. Now I have my Ultra Key. And we have a bunch of different options. We can draw a mask. We can change our output. But first and foremost, we want to go key color right here. And what's the key color do? We get an eyedropper, we get the black. Let's choose our eyedropper, which allow us to choose a color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick somewhere where that's the most uniform green. On this one, all the green's exactly the same, so I can pick anywhere. I'll click right there, and voila, magically, my character, I have removed all the green. Oops, let me turn this back on. I've removed all the green, and to show you that that's the case, now we have an alpha channel. Let me find, oh, okay, this will be good. Nice shot of lobster and steak. Let's put that under here. And now we have Crash Bandicoot standing on a steak with some lobster. Great. All right. Now, are we done? No, because there's actually still a little bit of finesse that we need to do. If we, oh, I'm going to zoom in. If we can see, there is actually some digital mess all around this character. And so that's just kind of noise. It's in between color, so it's trying to pull the green, but now we have this white. We can clean this up so it's a little bit cleaner by using our Chroma key, by going into our Ultra key. We have several different options that we open up will allow us to control different elements. I'm going to open up all these parts and allow us to actually improve on our Chroma key. Now, first and foremost, I'm going into matte generation, and this is going to help me control elements with green screening. With this character, I picked Crash Bandicoot because I knew this was going to be one of the easier ones to start with, because he doesn't really have any hair or skin or reflections that are going to be an issue to deal with. So realistically, all I'm going to want to do is I want to go to my pedestal, and the pedestal is like a curve of the green that's going to allow me to do. And if I take my pedestal all the way up to 100, we can see that already. You can see when I go down, this line, let's go down. You can see the white line that's around him right now goes from more or less, right? There's still some digital mess in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and see if I can't mess with the tolerance here. That doesn't really do much. So I'm going to go back to 50. If it doesn't do anything, I don't want to mess with it. How about our shadow? Well, look, I can remove the shadow and actually help reduce that. Now, the only issue I'm noticing once I'm messing with shadow is, wait a second. What's going on with the belly button here? Is the belly button getting keyed out? It looks fine because he's not really moving, but what if I move this? Uh-oh. All right, so there, I'm losing some of that. So maybe I shouldn't mess with my shadow too much. See, if I remove that, I get rid of the line around him, but also I'm opening up some of the darker areas. So, if I go all the way up, I get the bad line. This is where you can finesse and kind of find the happy medium. I don't really want to mess with the middle section unless I have to. All right, the highlight. Okay, ooh, if I got rid of the highlight, we're actually getting somewhere happier. We can see if I go all the way down, the line is still there, but the highlights, all the high colors, all the white colors. All right, what about transparency? Transparency is good too. Look, I can go all the way up. I can go all the way down. If I go all the way to 0, it's turning my green basically to white here. So you definitely want to go through and find that finesse, the in between. And now we're looking kind of good. Let's go back here. Wow, he loves steak and lobster. This guy's really into. All right, so now what's cool is I can go into my effect control because it's green screen. I can actually, let's do some basic animation. So I'm going to set my position here. I'm going to have him drop down here. All right, so look, here's some basic animation. Just do this and all right. As you can see, because I changed the framing though. Look, his face starts to get cut off at that point. So what we would have to do is, if we're messing with this, I would just go in and find this point here. I would maybe move my position back here, back up there. Oh, but of course I want to take that. I'm going to copy and paste that there. All right, still doesn't. So again, it'd just be a little finesse. And honestly, what I would do is more than likely go right here, turn my scale on, do right here, and scale it up a little bit myself. And then let's see what happens. All right. So Crash Bandicoot low stake. That's the moral of the story. What else? While we're messing with Crash, we can go through and look at the other options. So that's matte generation. Matte cleanup. Now this is going to help us clean along the lines as well. Let's just zoom back in and see if we can notice. Let's go all the way in. We can see, of course, the digital resolution of the character is why it's choppy. If you choose a file that's really small, your green screen is not going to be as clean as possible. Our choke, you can see, that's pretty good. This is him before stick, and then this is him after stick. Look, you can, it's basically changing the line of your green screen and making it all go in. So we can go in and clean it up a little bit more and refine the edges. But the problem is, if we do too much, we're just cutting off a bunch of context. And now we have a really, it's not terrible on fake Crash Bandicoot here, because we don't really know what he's supposed to look like anyway. So we can mess with the choke, but on a normal human being, when we play with this, it's going to look a lot worse. Soften. Now, soften is a good one as well. Let's zoom in and show you what soften does. And soften basically changes your hard edges, and it gives you kind of a blurred, soft edge. So that's good. I put on a lot. Look, we can see super blurry around him. But for me, I always like to mess with, especially with a character like that. Look, I can change my choke all the way out now. I can soften these edges a little bit. Okay, I want to actually mix the in between. All right, we get rid of that together. And that way we're not making him super anemic, right? We're going through, we're cutting off this like green halo he has about himself. We're softening the edges so it's not so hard and pixelated. Contrast. Now, contrast is the amount of color that's going in. We can change it from white to black. Mess with that if you want. I don't think this character necessarily needs it. Really, the main area I'm seeing it's here in his eye. All right, the midpoint, not really effective on this one. We'll talk more about that. Spill suppression. Now this, we'll talk more when we have a character that was actually filmed in front of a green screen, because light is reflective. You shoot a bunch of light on a green screen, and if you don't have the proper amount of lighting on your character, that green light can bounce back on your character. And then when you key it, you might be losing stuff. So the way we can affect it is messing with our saturation levels here, which of course saturation's the amount of color that's in it, the range, we can mess with and change our colors. Our spill suppression, he doesn't have any spill on him, so it's not going to affect him. Or Luma is like the Luma within the color range. I'm going to just go back to normal because it doesn't really do anything.
Didn't he have a little spill on his stomach? Look at
well, it wasn't a spill on his stomach so much so that it was like within a range. And I think because of the level I picked, it wasn't going to spill. Look, it's not that. I don't think it's there. Let's see. Let's put him over here. Yeah. It didn't affect. It was just like I was selecting too much of the range, Grant, that it associated some of the black in his stomach. So I think that's when I was in Matte Generation.
Looked even from the very beginning.
Oh, it was the shadow. When I was affecting his shadow, look, because the shadow is the dark areas that have green in it. So
I the black part. I meant the area around his belly button. It looked a little green to me. Doesn't to others? Doesn't his stomach look a little green?
A tiny bit, yeah.
And I don't know if that is.
I think it's normally like that.
Is it okay? Yeah.
Okay.
but with our color correction here, you can see we can, up our luminance, which
Cause it
is,
dives from orange to like yellow in the center, so I think that's, the yellow just looks a little green.
there we go. Now we got the Incredible Hulk, Crash
Bandicoot.
Bandicoot. So there's really is. All right. Great. We got Crash who loves steak. All right, I'll just double check. Okay.
Wah, wah, wah.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Sounds more like a Wario thing to me. All right, let's look at the other one that I had. Let's bring in, oops, wrong lesson.
Just bring in a whole bunch of them and have them all stacked on top of each other.
Well, we could definitely do that. Let's add to our steak by Chroma key. All right. Who do we want to add? Well, I think it only makes sense on today that we bring in the one, the only Shrek. All right. Now, notably, we have Shrek on a blue screen. Why is that, do you think?
Because he's green.
He's green, yes. So if we try to do the chroma key, like look what happens if I just steal, let me steal the chroma key from Crash.
We're just gonna get like his shirt and
Put it
his
on
pants.
Shrek. All right, we got a lot of difference here, but let's go ahead and
Maybe the shape of his face
let's just you know
and a
what?
cutout of him.
I'm gonna delete the ultra key. Let's go here because I messed up Crash so much. Here's our ultra key, but let's go over here. Let's turn off that one. Let's go here. All right, I'm gonna put Shrek on top. All right, Shrek's on top now. So what happens if I choose that? What happens to Shrek? Well, not necessarily anything right away. We can see that the difference between the two is he loses some of, look,
He looks a little more like yellowy, like
he's more
tan.
muted. He's more muted, right? He's definitely not see-through yet, but our key here is grabbing that. And if I bring up my pedestal, we for sure see that Shrek starts to really lose his green. But it's good because we didn't go ahead and just like eyedropper him. Look, and we can see that he becomes more green.
Irradiated Shrek.
Well, he's irradiated because if we actually turn back on the ultra key here, we can see that Shrek is, we're getting Shrek with some lobster coming through, right? So realistically, what we want to do is take this blue away from Shrek. Now we're going to go back to here to fit. Now we have Shrek, who loves lobster so much. And of course, we want to do, I'm going to do 150. I'm going to bring Shrek over here. Have him stick. Okay. Let's do a little animation. Start Shrek there. Have Shrek pop up. There. All right, that's great. Okay. So our Shrek looks decent, but again, it's all about the finesse. So we're going to go in and look at 400%, and let's just look at Shrek's hand. We can see it's got a blue halo pretty much. It's from the blue. We can mess with our pedestal up or down. We can see what we like. Down is kind of give us a black. Up kind of give us this thing. All right, our transparency. How transparent do we want it to be? Well, we can mess with that. I'm gonna look at my shadows and highlights. That doesn't really do anything. What about our shadows? Looks okay. All right. This is, again, we want our choke. All right, let's choke it down a little bit and soften the edges a tiny bit. All right, that should actually do it. Let's go over to here and just make sure we're going there. His head's a little clean. Maybe I want to do that. Let's look at our spill suppression. I'm going to check out my spill though. And we can see, okay, spill all the way off. There is a blue halo around him. Spill all the way on and it's gone. So there we go. I've cleaned up my Shrek. And now we have our video. Let's look how awesome it is. All right, so Crash Bandicoot really likes it when Shrek appears and flies away. All right, so 2 animated characters. Now that's easy. Let's bring in some people and see how harder it actually gets, because we can cut away from Shrek or whatnot. All right, I have that one's going to be my last one. All right, Shia LaBeouf right here. Maybe you shouldn't have picked him, but all right, let's go ahead. We're going to go again to effects. We're going to go to Ultra Key. Put that on, go to our Ultra Key. I'm going to select our green screen right there. We're going to go and say, just do it. All right, perfect. That's exactly what I want. All right, so let's. All right, I'm picking my section of Shia. Let's go over here. We're going to add it to our masterpiece. I'm going to put him on top. Oh, I want to keep just do it too. All right, that. All right. And then I'm going to mess with Shia a little bit. Let's bring him up. Let's put him right here. All right, now looking at him, we have motion. We can see there's motion blur, but look, our green turns white around these areas where there's spill. Oh, look, there's his mic pack. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and specifically clean him up. Like anything, we're going to go into our matte generation. Pedestal's always the first one that I mess with. We can see hair is going to be a good issue where the green is going to affect. I can still see got some spill on his nose. Let's go to our spill suppression. I'm going to do spill. Oh, see, look, green, definitely green halo around him. Pull that apart. Now, here's interestingly enough, his shirt's kind of turning black there. So we gotta finesse. Oh, it looks. Oh, maybe it's my pedestal that's doing that, or is it? Maybe it's the highlight of the light. Okay. Let's turn off our key and just see. Okay, so it's like that the whole time. It's his shirt. It's nothing I'm doing. Okay, so his shirt is like that. Let's go in, look at his hands. Definitely do some more spill, clean up on there. Don't want to see any green halos around him. Again, matte cleanup. This is the line that's around him being the matte. All right, so let's look at our choke line. Again, look, see if I do it to him, it really affects his look. We see it in his fingers. So you can't, the choke is something you definitely have to play with sparingly and make sure you get it clean. Look what happens when we soften him. Again, look, it's basically making his outline and just reducing it a ton. So this is ones that you want to like really use last case scenario. All right, so now we have this, and we can take a look at our green screen. Okay, so of course, the problem here is he just appears. So let's just, he's on the green screen. Let's just animate him in here. So we want his position to be right there. We can just do. There we go. Let's take a look. All right. Well, now Shrek's problem is Shrek is in a bad position. So let's just change Shrek's position. Put Shrek right about here. All right, Shrek. And then our final keyframe can be over here. All right. All right. Well, he just kind of like he's like kind of the Flash. He moves in there too much. So what I'm going to do is actually going to make this a little slower. This is a funny all right. All right, so he's starting walking there. So let's just, you know what? We're just gonna move this apart. So let's cut it here. All right, here's our piece. All right, so what can we do when we're using bad green screen though, or issues with our green screen? Well, I found this in here, and we have something right there. So look at this. This is just an open green screen project. Now, what's going to be our problem with this green screen? Well, looking at this, I'm just going to set my in. So check out this green screen. All right. Well, first and foremost, this is really, really hard, and hard for many reasons. When we shoot on a green screen, we traditionally want to use a tripod, stay in the same position, because it's going to make our work a lot easier. Also,
Standing on part of a green screen instead of having it that, because you're going to be cutting off the ankles right there.
I'll be cutting off the ankles or doing the best not to do this. So realistically, let's start right here and just look at this one shot. If we open up here and do our, we're going to go into our effects. We're going to go into our ultra key right here. And with my ultra key, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to select my green screen. This is also shot outside. Boom. I have my green screen effect right there. And again, I'm just going to put it over our entire piece here. Now, what's interesting too about this is even though our green screen is small, because the images are always huge. So like Shia LaBeouf is over in this area here and Crash Bandicoot's right here. We're only going to see the area that is chroma keyed. So that is always something to consider, that we would have to nest everything below. Like, for example, I could go ahead and say, all right, well, I want to nest this. nest everything below, and then I could resize it. And, oh, it doesn't even fully fit, but let's say, okay. And now I have my green screen there. Now, the only problem with that, of course, is we're moving. So I would have to go ahead and keyframe everything to fit there. But realistically, also, did anyone else notice what happened when I made this bigger? Let's put this back at 100. Anybody notice what I noticed? Here's Crash Bandicoot's face over here. The green screen took out the green in the grass. So if we turn off our Ultra key here, we have other green stuff that's being keyed out. So how do we affect this? Well, number one, we can go ahead and use our mat and then use, we can draw a mask. And a mask is going to be right here with the pen tool. So realistically, something like this, I can draw a mask here, and I'm going to invert my mask. And anything that is not in the mask here is not green screen. So we can see that this green grass, we can even see, like, see how it zooms out? Because I have to animate my mask. Anything that's here is green and all the grass here is brown. But the second we zoom in, we can see, okay, so why do I show you this? Well, let's say you didn't properly light, or you used a small green screen like they're using. In this situation, maybe I'm not going to use this type of mask. Maybe, oh, did I just delete the whole thing? I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to go in and delete my mask. Now let's say, hey, realistically, what if I use my mask? Oh, I used my mask here, and I decided, oh, you know what? I'm just going to use my mask on this square. I'm going to make sure, oh, I don't want to curve. This is what happens when you don't zoom in. I'm going to go ahead and look at my mask and find, oh, here. So what I'm doing here is I'm essentially, drawing the mask. And what's interesting about your masks here, got the curve going on, but essentially I can add more points. I can take away points. You can see I can make my green screen the curve. But essentially I can draw this mask. And if I turn my mask path on, this allows me, let's do this. Now, here's the only issue is, look, my mask is still huge, so my grass is bad. So then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of that one. There we go. So now I can go here. I can go here. I can go here. I can go here. And because let's just say I spent the time to make it perfect, because I'm not going to spend the time to make it perfect right now, but we can see that I have a new keyframe. And so essentially I'm animating my mask, and you can see that it gets bigger to eventually fit where I wanted it to fit here. Now, realistically, something that's shot handheld and so shaky like this, I'm going to have to go frame by frame and animate my mask to perfectly fit this. Just know that, like, Marvel movies and stuff like that work really, really a lot in Chroma key. Chroma key is not a fix-all. If anything, it's a bigger problem that you're going to have to deal with in the future. So that is editor's problem. That's future Tim's problem. But present Tim hates past Tim because he knows that how much past Tim hates future Tim, because present Tim always has to make up for past Tim, so future Tim doesn't hate present Tim. But my point is, mask tool is really good. Realistically too, let me see.
It is a major time suck, though. It can take so long to keep changing all the keyframes.
All right, so check out this one that I have here. So what's interesting is I shot this green screen. All right, here I shot this green screen. I want to put him on the green screen. I know there's several areas. Now, what's interesting is I'm using lights. So I light my figure, I light the background, but we have areas that definitely don't look great where we have the bunch of here. And obviously we can see the stands. Well, I know the amount of movement he's going to do is never going to be anywhere outside of this green area. So what am I going to do? Well, number one, first and foremost, I want to color correct him before I work on the green screen. So I'm just going to do a really easy, I'm just going to go here into my Luigi color, say auto. It's going to do all that. I'm going to up my saturation just a little bit. Let's just do all the way for the sake of here. And now we can see we have green. Now, what's notable about this green too is it's not a perfect green screen. We can see that there are different colored greens. Specifically, look, that's dark green right here. This is a brighter green. Wherever the light is hitting it the hardest is going to be where is where our brightest colors are going to be. So for something like this, I'm going to again put my Ultra key onto here. And then when something like this, I realistically, like, it doesn't make sense for me to pick a green color from over here. Why? Because if I pick a green color here, it's not doing me any favors. I can see black, but here, let's put him over. Let's put him over here. We can see everything behind him is kind of, well, let's just get rid of that for now. It's kind of fuzzy. It's because we didn't do a good green screen. So what I'm going to do actually is, since I know I'm going to have my subject, and what I'm going to chroma key is he's going to be from here to here. Let's say this is the only section of him I'm going to use. The only section of him I'm going to use is here. So realistically, I only have to worry about the green that's specifically right around him. And why is that? Because I can draw what is a garbage matte. And that's basically a mask like I just drew. And so my mask here, I'm going to draw my mask, and I am just going to go around my subject. And look, I'm able to do as many pinpoints as possible. And from here, I have my matte. And on my matte, or my mask, my garbage mask is right there. I'm going to select my color. I'm going to pick a green that's inside there. All right. So now I'm chroma keying around him. Well, what this allows me to do actually is, you know what? I did it wrong. Excuse me. I want to do a garbage mask. What I'm doing is just chroma keying a certain area around him. Doing this in Ultra key is incorrect. What I want to do is go to another effect. I want to do a garbage mask. And what is that? I am going to do and select a tool called crop. Now, crop is a good tool. I'm going to drop it into here. And what crop allows me to do is to crop my image. And by cropping my image, I am going to crop my image from the left. And what does that mean? That means I'm basically just getting rid of everything. I'm cutting it off. And what's good about that is I know for a fact I'm never going to go past this line right here. So I can crop my image, and then I can go, I can crop from the top. I don't need to worry about anywhere. I'm going to look at my image and make sure that as he moves, I'm not going to crop off his head. Now I'm going to crop from the right. And from there. All right, so look, if I start right here, I'm actually cropping off his arm. So that's not good. So let's just go to our crop. This is a basic crop tool. Right, let's do that. All right, so now looking at him, we can see the only green I really need to deal with is all of here. Now, look, there's a little bit of brown there, though. So maybe I want to finesse my crop a little bit more. And what's cool about crop is I do have the mask tool. So what I'm going to actually do is look at all his movements, and I'm going to actually choose the crop tool, choose my mask here and my pen tool, and I'm going to draw a mask around him. Now, if I remember correctly, he does come in from the side. So maybe I want my mask tool to be something like this. Now what I can do is, because I have that mask tool, and I have crop, you say, Tim, oh, it looks exactly the same. And I have my mask. Oh, I want to get rid of that mask that didn't work. Okay, there's my crop tool. And what we can see is now, basically, I can go in and I can crop. You can see everything in there is being cropped. Well, that's not what I want to do, Tim. Oh, okay, why not? Well, what I really want to do is let's invert our crop here. Now, if I crop everything from the left to the right, I basically just garbaged everything in the shot that I'm not using. And we can look at his shot and be like, okay, so he moves from here to there. I'm not cutting off of any of his legs or arms. And in fact, let's even look at the very start right here and be like, okay, let's go to our mask tool right here, our crop mask tool. I'm gonna turn the mask path on, which is cool because that allows me to slick here on my mask. And I'm actually going to I can finesse my mask a little bit. And it'll remember every single point as I'm going on. It means I don't have to deal with, like, maybe there's some more greens. In fact, I could move the whole thing if I really wanted to follow him as he moves, which is cool, except, okay, now we get here. Okay, he starts to get cut off over here. So let's move the whole thing. Okay, it keeps moving. Okay, his head for sure is cut off there. So we can see that the mask slowly moves to match his movements. Okay, cool. So now all I just have to deal with is the green that's within this area. So from here, let's go to our Ultra key, our eyedropper tool. I'm going to select a green that's around him. And already, for the most part, our chroma key is almost there. Now look, we have some issues right here. In fact, let's zoom in so we can see it. We can also see that there's some bounce. We can see he's transparent a little bit there. We can see there is where the wrinkles are. Specifically, that green stuff is an issue we're gonna have to deal with. So let's go ahead and first and foremost, let's chroma him, and we'll deal with those issues later. We might have to super finesse it. But I always want to look at his ears, his hair, make sure he's not so transparent. Well, number one, with my Ultra key, I always go here. I up my pedestal, which gives me a range, and I can see by upping my pedestal doesn't really affect it. Okay, we can see go all the way down. We can see the wrinkles go up more. It's going to allow, I can see I start losing a little bit of hair, but it's not a big deal for me. It's still transparent there in the middle. And if we see here, what's interesting, the more pedestal we go, the less dramatic these wrinkles are. Well, like anything, you have to weigh the pros and the cons, because if I go all the way up, I start losing some of his hair. And I don't want him to have like a cowlick too bad. So I'm going to go in there and find where I'm happy. Again, what was next? Hello. Okay. Okay, sorry. All right, pedestal, shadow, highlight. Now, realistically, on a shot like this, let's just go a little bit wider. We can take a look here and see when I mess with the shadow or the highlight, we can see that the shadow, when I bring it all the way up, actually makes all the darkers dark. So we see the wrinkles more, but his jacket becomes less. All right. So let's just go back to, I think it starts at 50. Highlights are going to be all the bright areas. Like, let's watch this white shirt. Not really doing much, it looks like. So let's go back to 10 there. Our tolerance, we can see, mess with that. He becomes, skin tone becomes greener if we turn that all the way down. Pinker, definitely. Let's just go back to the base there, 35. All right. Spill suppression. Let's mess with our spill. See what happens. Okay, well, he's still transparent. So honestly, we need to mess with our transparency first. So mess with the transparency, we can see. Now, you're seeing a lot of cool ways to like do effects and stuff. But look what happens if we turn the transparency all the way down. It becomes white. So we need to find that area where it is perfect. And he is not transparent. So he's currently not transparent. And we have, I think we've got the area where we would like it. Okay. Looking at him too, we're going to go down here. We're going to look at spill. All right, definitely his suit turns green there, turns more pinky there. So I want to go somewhere in between where I'm happy. All right. Look at our range. Definitely not that. Definitely not that. I'm going to go somewhere in the middle. Desaturate, right? We can make them black and white. We can make them color, but we can find that. I'm trying to hide. If we zoom in more, definitely around the ears and the neck, we can see this halo that's happening. His shirt is getting chunky. So definitely areas to mess about. And remember, how did we do that? We went here into our matte cleanup. And that allows us to affect the choke, which already, look, we just already made it good. And with our soften makes the hard edges more, slims out the neck a little bit. And I'll go down here and look and see. Realistically, we've cleaned up him for the most part in the areas that were properly filmed, except we still haven't dealt with this area down here. Now, how do we deal with that? Okay, let me show you what I would do. So if you have something, you cleaned it up and nothing here, well, I showed you we could do that. We could get rid of it with a garbage mat. Now it's something to note that like, hey, I could actually go through. Let's add a pinpoint. I could go through and actually every movement I could go through and then do that over here. Maybe I would need to add a middle one to do in between his legs. But realistically, I could add some pinpoints. And the only problem with this, of course, is every second that he moves, I have the potential of cutting him off. But look, I got rid of those bad areas. How else would I fix it? Well, realistically, when I actually shot this piece, I never intended to really see his genes. I just shot it with extra and I shot it in a higher resolution so that, hey, look, I fixed it. Guess what? Never had to deal with it because my intention in shooting it. So I knew that when I was putting this together, that it didn't matter if I had my green screen. Maybe I would have spent more time laying out the pile of green screen at the bottom in order not to achieve that. So you realistically, how are you set up? Now, something like the studio at Gav, we have the perfect green screen setup. It's perfectly lit. It's really attainable to get good green screen. We have enough distance. You know, the closer you stand to the green screen, the more spill, the light that's going to bounce on you have an issue. I mean, if we turn this one on, we can see, let's turn our mask off here and do the ultra key. If we scroll on here, 400, we're going to see that this person has way more spill than anything. So we're going to have to clean it up more. Let's turn off our spill. Just because they're standing. Now, again, they're outside. It's lit differently. It's lit by the sun. So if you cast a shadow on your green screen, I think they're lucky enough that they didn't have any. Let's see, was there any? Oh, you know what? Let me show you this. I don't think there is any shadow, but fortunately I have Ken here and his green screen. If we go back to our source over here, I believe it's right. Where did I put it? Is it over here? Oh, it's the back of my neck. Great. All right, let me just select Ken here. I'm gonna paste. Let's just drag it out. This one, let's get rid of the ultra. Let's get rid of the crop. We have our color. I'm gonna make it wider. All right. I remember at one point, let's just go back to 50. Feel like I saw at one point he got close enough to cast a shadow. All right, so right there. So you can see, like, if you cast a shadow, that's going to change the color pigment of the green. Realistically, I of course set this up so that he's standing a good 6 feet away from the green screen. But we can see here's some shadow. So this color green, and we can see that the light is hitting this green much brighter than over here. The shadow is going to matter when we chroma key is pretty much is what I'm trying to say. So for your projects and for all of this stuff, look, what we put together. We put together something pretty quick that's fun, it's weird, and you should be able to do that just with the basics. Realistically, I'm going to want you all to play around with Ultra Key, see what issues you can get into. It's one of those things that you could finesse. Anytime you're doing composition, you're adding a matte and there's movement, that's going to cause you a lot of headache and pain to deal with. So think about that. It's always better to film it as good green screen to start with, because if you don't film it with good green screen to start with, it's going to make it a whole lot harder to achieve good chroma key at the end.
All right, looks pretty fun to do.
Yeah, and so Tim, did we want them to have a rough cut next week, and then the final would be due the week after?
That would sound like a fun to me. Yes, that sounds great.
So Tim and I have given you lots of the footage. And this is something that you should be aware of. We gave you links on YouTube. You still have to get them off of YouTube. So there's a software called Clip Grab. It's free. It downloads very quickly. And you can take all those files off of YouTube and then import them into Premiere as assets and do whatever you want with them. So we want to see something that you've done by next week. Next week's going to be a sharing week. And then you'll have a final product the week after. So you can ask Tim Premiere questions. We can look at what you have, and then you can fine tune it the following week. But that's this next assignment is chroma keying, so that you can, and we have animals, we have aliens, we have celebrities, we have a huge variety of things. You can bring in your own assets too, especially backgrounds. But there's a variety of things there. There's got to be at least a few things that you'll like. If you want to bring in some other assets, you can do that as well. But I think we want to see some of the things that we included. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot of footage, so you have a lot of possibilities for ideas. And here's where you got to be creative, because there's a huge variety. And what I'm hoping for is that we'll get, several different films that are completely different from one of them. Last year we had a music video. We had yeah, just a huge variety. So have fun, play with it, and be as creative as possible. Any questions for Tim or me?
I have one, which I don't. It's a horrible question because I cannot remember exactly what we did, but I know David and I were looking. We were editing on Monday, I believe, and there's a way to, before you do Ultra Key and before you do, I guess the Ultra Key or Chroma Key, there's a way to better match your, like if you're doing just, how do I explain it? If you're doing just like if you're inserting yourself into a movie, there's a way to better color match yourself with everyone else and what the colors. And I do not remember how to do that. I don't know if you guys have any idea.
You want to color correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we're scheduled to do that, I think a different class, but I'll just jump in and show you basic color correction here in Premiere. Let's go here.
We're going to have a Premiere color correction, and then we're also going to have a DaVinci Resolve color correction lesson.
Okay, so realistically, you want to get your color to match a source. So basic color correction is going to happen here let me just delete my Lumetri color. This is what my source material looks like before I bring it in here, just through my Blackmagic Mini Ursa is what I use for my camera. You can see the color profile is very muted, but it's because I have a range. Grant's red footage comes in. I'm sure you're working with red footage, so you know what it looks like when it comes in. But you have a whole range, so you're able to bring it in. So there's a lot of different options in color correction. First and foremost, if you white balance, let's say right here, I can actually go in and select the white balance based off of that. That allows me to bring up my color and figure out my white balance based off of the white thing I shot. Remember, if we're doing white balance, you're going to bring up your well, I just got scared. You're going to bring up what's it called? Slate color board.
Yeah.
Yeah, your color board in order to white balance. So of course, white balance is based off of the level of light you're using. Now in here, we're able to affect, basically, if we wanted to manually white balance, I could go through and add temperature and tint. So greens and purples and blues and oranges. But again, if I do my manual white balance, I can select here. And it automatically does based off of that to give me a better color temperature. Now tone exposure, that's the amount of white that is in there. I can mess with that here. Contrast is the level of black. So if I go here, I'm going to crush my blacks, which is all, make it much more contrasty. Now, all of these elements are ways you can match and make a tone. Maybe you're going to use a LUT or something. We'll talk about that in a bit, but I'm showing you manually how we do it here. Highlights, these are all going to be the white ranges. You can see definitely when I raise it all up, the shinier parts on his face get affected here. Whereas exposure is overall, everything gets raised. Highlights are going to be the white, brighter areas. Shadows are going to be the darker areas, right? If I bring them up, all of the dark areas are there. All right, see, Robert, this is whites. This is going to affect all the white colored temperatures in there. And this is blacks. going to affect the blacks areas. So realistically, I can make my image darker or muddier, or depending on however you want to do. What's cool here is I can reset and then it'll do auto, and it kind of just defaults, but I can look at that and be like, well, autos doesn't always work, and I'm not happy with that at all. So realistically, I would probably add some contrast, bring my black down a little bit, the white.
This is affecting the raw file, correct?
It's not affecting the raw file, no.
Oh, wait. Oh, dang it. Okay, well, I was just curious. I think that's how he did it. He like went straight to the raw file and was like, but
Oh.
I'd have to ask him. But
So he may have gone.
He adds a LUT, I believe. I think he's a LUT color corrector, which is here. We just reset all of this.
no, I appreciate this regardless. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of Red users do is they have is a program called Red CineX, and you take the raw files, you do the color correction, the basic color correction before you bring them into Premiere. Maybe that's what he was doing.
Maybe.
But in Premiere, you're probably looking at the raw files, and then you start kind of the color correction.
Well, if you're affecting it outside and you want it color corrected, yeah, I can't. I'm a Premiere editor. I don't traditionally work with red files, so maybe that's someone. If David was here, he could tell us what he does exactly. I don't know that workflow, but realistically, if we're going here, I know he usually works with a LUT as well, which is a basic. You can see some presets I have in here. You can see these are for REs. Here's a phantom LUT. You can see, you can actually download custom. So maybe he has a red LUT. I don't use any of these traditionally. So, but you can see that like this automatically tones my raw to look that way. Now it doesn't affect the raw files because I can always go back and re-affect it, but it's all referenced here in Premiere. So I would be worried about affecting my red files specifically. So
you can't ever mess them up. They're always, everything, all the data is always there.
Good.
You're just tweaking it.
That's encouraging. And as you can see, I can go in my LUT here, and then I can still affect and change it based off of that. It just gives me a base work area, realistically. But I'm going to go back to none. I'm going to be back to reset. I'm going to go back here and do my color tone, auto. Let's do some more black and some contrast here. And then just mess and get it to look like what I think it should look like. From there, and then from here, this is just the basic color correction in Lumetri Color, and what it's going to allow me to go in, and there's a lot of other options I can do. Here's creative. Creative gives me a look, and now these looks actually are a whole bunch of different color filters that I can add on. So if I want to give it a gold orange tinge, or I want it to have this codec. Here's a blue cold day. These are specific like photo filters that I can add to my entire image. If I'm doing something stylized, I could play with this area here. Adds a look. Now let's go to our look here, choose that. We can affect the intensity, how much it's going to be on our image. Adjustments, faded film. Do we want it to look like it's a faded film, like an old film? We can do that. Sharpen, sharpens our focus. So we can see if I go all the way up, let's say I have a little bit of soft focus, I can mess with my sharpness here, or I can de-sharpen, I can blur it if I want. And what's cool about our Lumetri Color over here, everything here that I'm doing is you can turn on the keyframes. So if you want to have an in-shot effect, we can definitely, no one would want to look at their face that much. Vibrance, okay, I want to bring my intensity down. Okay, vibrance, that's the color vibrance. Look, we can see specifically in the tie, it makes it insane, like, or we can bring it down, definitely mute it more. Saturation, of course, black and white there, all the way super saturated, that's the intensity of the color. And here's our tint balance. What's our tint balance? Well, we can go in and affect our shadow and what our shadow is. You can see the more I affect it here, the more he's turning pink, but I can actually color balance the shadows and the highlights. So do I want the highlights to all be green? You can see his face is turning green that way. Or I want all of the highlights to be pink. You can see all the hot areas are turning pink. This just allows you to affect color and tone. Obviously, we're not going to go super insane with some of these parts, but I am just demonstrating extremes for you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what's cool about this too is we have creative. I can turn that off if I don't want. If I mess with that, if I can turn that off, I can go back to here. Let's leave basic on curves. This is going to be based on your RGB curve, where we can bring up all of the white. All right, it's based. If we turn off this, let's bring up all of our white. Let's do our hue saturation curves. Okay, now I can bring up all the reds. You can see I can bring down red. This one allow green. So if we want to take out all the greens and change all the green colors, or the blues. So this really gives you the ability to do music video effects realistically. A bunch of different options here to play around with. We'll talk more about this.
They
in the
all kind of
future.
do different things. They're just kind of styles. Some colorists love the curves. Some like, I mean, so they do it. There's different techniques for getting the same type of effects. I've never liked the curves. Do you use them much, Tim?
Like in a blue moon, almost never. Like honestly, the only curve I almost ever use is like the white curve. If I have like a weirdly shot dark area. What's cool about the curves? I should just reset it.
Yeah, I really like the curves actually. I
Some
think
people like them. Yeah, a lot of people use them.
I really don't care for I wish the color wheels were more precise, because I feel like they're not as precise as you would, like you can't just like, here's a data point that I'm going to leave it on here and I can hit that again later. Because you're kind of like guessing in a way. You're like, I think it was like right in that area.
So you can see, you can mess with the curves here and affect, like obviously the blacks are down and the whites are up. So how you can put a ton of pinpoints and just finesse all your color in there.
We'll spend more time with color correction in upcoming lesson. And we will also spend some time on DaVinci Resolve too. So those of you who really want to get serious about it, this Premiere and Final Cut and most programs, they're just kind of for smaller projects. But when you get more serious, you got to use a program like DaVinci, which is designed specifically for color.
Yeah. You can do a lot in Premiere, but again, there's a lot to know and a lot to do. So.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording.